Hey guys, today we're going to look at this little equipment program thingy I wrote. I got the idea to write this because I was like, hey, I want to write a story. And then I made a story in my head and I was like, hey, let's make this interactive. So I started writing a choose your own adventure story. Then I was like, hey, let's make this super interactive. So I started writing in Python. Now, that's not the most interactive thing because you need a command shell and an interpreter and blah, 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 but I might migrate it over to another language. So, what we're going to do today is we're just going to go through this and I'm going to show you around my code. All right, so the first thing, we have a bunch of lists up here. I'm currently coming over from JavaScript and we call lists arrays because that's the right way to do it, but whatever. So, these are arrays. You can tell they're arrays because they have the little brackets. All right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to walk through this together and see how stuff works. All right, so first things first, we have an array called options or a list called options. And what these are for later on, whenever we start playing the game, we can view what options we have, so what actions we can take. And that's what this is. And then we have an array or a list for equipped items. Whenever the game starts off, the player doesn't have anything equipped, so that's why we have an empty list right now. And then I just threw in an inventory with random stuff in it: an apple, a hairbrush, a fire starter, and a moon crystal, whatever the hell that last one is. And these are non consumable, and we'll see how that's implemented later on. I mean, they're non equipable. Then we have an array for available equipment, which is a sword, a shield, a bow, and a staff. And this pretty much revolves around the equipment list. So, right here we have a universal action input. So, if the player doesn't want to type out the syntax with the underscores and parentheses, what they can do is just use this. They can just call this function right here in the console. And what it will do is prompt them with an input, what will you do? And they can just use any of these words to run a function. Kind of like a command line. I think it's pretty neat. So this right here, this str is a string. This is called typecasting. It makes sure that the input, no matter what they put in, whether it be numbers or letters, is converted to a string. And if you don't know, a string is what this is right here. Anything with tick marks around it. Python doesn't use characters as far as I'm aware, so everything in tick marks, whether it's double or single, is a string. So by using this function, the player can call upon these other functions with keywords. All right, so let's scroll down a little bit. So equip, what does it do? So the equip function, it takes another string input and it asks the player, what would you like to equip? And then it assigns it to the variable what. The next line looks at what and is like, hey, is this in the equipment list? And if it is, it inserts it at the equipped index of 0. So if you don't know how indexes and lists work, so computers start typing at 0, 1, 2, 3. Not typing, but counting. So the 0 position is the first position. So what this does is it takes whatever the player equips and inserts it at the 0 position. That way the program doesn't have to scan through the entire code and be like, oh, what index or what position is this at, for whenever we tell them what they've equipped. So by making the equipped item at the 0 index, whenever we print their message, you have equipped blah, 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 it converts the list of equipped into a string, and it returns the 0 index, which is the thing we just equipped. So if it's in the inventory, which was the consumables and non-equipable, it just returns, hey, this can't be equipped. And if it's in neither, it asks the player, please choose an actual piece of equipment. All right, so if the player wants to see what they have equipped, they can either use the keyword up here, or they can type in the function, view equipped. And if they type in the function or use the keyword, what they'll get is a little message that says, you have equipped the following, and it will return a string version of the equipped list, and we'll explore that whenever we get going. So then to set up the help menu, I just used aid as the function name, and it has this huge long spiel, which we might look at. But the player is prompted to type aid with parentheses in the beginning to get this tutorial. So, and I saved this as a string. Like I saved options as a list. So if I ever add anything, like say I add a function I don't have yet, which is pickup, that would be a string. Will it do it? Nope. But if I added another function, instead of having to go down here and type it into this as well, it just updates automatically. All right. So gear. Gear is the equipment or the equipable inventory that the player has. So this one, all it does is print, you currently have the following, and it prints a string of equipment, which is, the list of equipment, which is this list right here. All right, so moving on. If they want to see what they have in their inventory, which is the consumable, non-equipable stuff, it just prints the string version of the inventory list. All right, now if a player wants to drop something, it asks the player what would they like to drop, saves it as a string, and then saves it as DRP, a variable. And the first thing the code does is it checks to see if the player has it both in their inventory and if it's equipped. If it is, then it removes it from the inventory and it removes it from their equipped box, from their equipped list. Then if they don't have it in both equipment and equipped, it looks for it in equipment, and if they have it, it gets rid of it. If it's not in either of those, it looks for it in the inventory, and if it's in the inventory, it gets rid of it. However, if it's not in any of those, let me do this real quick to make sure that we cover all our bases. Equipped. This looks for the item that they want to drop in all three lists, and if it's not there, it just tells them you cannot drop what you do not have. And then the game starts, and it starts with this little prompt that says, for help, type aid. So we're going to run this and see what happens. Let's go ahead and see if we can scoop this up a little bit. All right, for help, type aid. So aid. Welcome, traveler. You can type aid at any time to view this tutorial. Here is a list of actions you can perform. And then this is the options list that we saw at the very beginning. So if I added something to the options list, it would automatically update here the next time I ran the script. You can call upon this list of options at any time by typing options. You can perform an action. To perform an action, simply typo, that's a typo, action name, parentheses. For example, to equip something, you would type equip. Hope this helps. Good luck on the cold coast. Yeah, that's the story I have popping around my head. But, world building. So let's type out our action. And it'll ask us what we want to do. Now that we're in the action, the function that we're using is action. So here I can insert any of the keywords that I have defined. So let's say I want to equip something, or I want to view my equipment. So how do I view my equipment? We'll just type equipment, because that links to the gear list or gear function. So equipment. And this tells me that I currently have the following: shield, sword, bow, and staff. But do I have anything equipped? Well, we can view the equipped items, and it returns to me an empty list. All right, so let's equip something. What would you like to equip? How about a sword? I've equipped the sword. Now if I type in the view equipped, spell that right? Yep. It tells me that I have equipped the following: a sword. All right, cool. But now let's say I want to drop the sword. What would you like to drop? I want to drop the sword. I have dropped sword. So let's see if it's out of my overall equipment. So let's do an action because I forgot the command. And you can see that the sword is no longer in this list. I have dropped it. Cool. But is it in my equipped item still? So view equipped. And you can see that I definitely have dropped the sword. Cool. And I don't have a pickup function yet, but let's see. What else was there? Oh, let's look at our inventory. So I believe the command for that, if I can get this thing to scroll down, well, there we go. I believe the command for that was non-equip. So let's see what I have in my non-equip. I currently have an apple, a hairbrush, a fire starter, and a moon crystal. So let's try to equip the apple. And it will tell us that this cannot be equipped. Well, stupid apple, I'm going to drop you. And I have dropped the apple. So now I want to view my non-equipables. So non-equip. Whoop. My apple is no longer there. So that's all I have so far. Just a little equip and non-equip little program. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I think it's pretty cool myself. It took me about an hour and a half, and I'm kind of proud of it. So I feel like this is the start of a really cool text adventure. And once I figure out how to actually put Python into a compiled version, there's a Python thingy that will turn into an executable so that people can actually play it without having Python installed on their computer. So once I figure out how to do that and I get the game actually done, I'll probably be releasing it. I'm looking at like maybe a year, 7 weeks or something like that. But I think it's pretty cool, and I hope you guys enjoyed this little look behind the scenes with the code. Have a good day, I guess. I mean, I was about to say that, but that's weird. Whatever. Peace.